Are there concerns that a change in F1 fan base could cause the World Championship to completely overhaul the point system, the championship structure, making it harder for a driver to run away with the championship, or in simple terms, follow NASCAR's lead?
I kind of want to walk off the set right now, just the fact that we're even giving them these ideas and discussing it. What are we doing here? Listen,
Ping pong.
Yeah,
Formula One playoffs.
Formula One playoffs. There we go. Yeah. Going to the final race, you've got Verstappen and Hamilton and Leclerc, and they all three of them take each other out, and then Lando Norris somehow BS his way into the championship four, and he's your world champion, everybody, because he just happened to be in position. Listen, I mean,
Landy Norris.
Yeah. How did Lewis win all of his championships the last several years? I know last year was obviously an epic championship battle and everything, but I mean, I don't remember fans saying, "Oh, the championship's already decided. There's no point in watching Brazil or Abu Dhabi or Mexico or any of these races because he's already clinched the championship. So what's the point?" But they need to artificially make things closer together to give Vettel and Ferrari or Verstappen and Red Bull or Bottas even his Mercedes teammate a chance to make things more interesting and guarantee that we have a championship go down to the final race. Enough of that. I mean, you've seen how polarizing it is in NASCAR, and by the way, NASCAR is never going to get rid of that because enough fans do like it and split the fan base that if you did go back to a regular season format, you'd have people complaining about how boring it is. But I think NASCAR and Formula One, obviously we talk about both series on this channel and on this network. There are a lot of fans that follow both, but I think the fan bases, generally speaking, are not as overlapped as people might think. And I think a Formula One fan base would revolt the idea. And in fact, they already have. I think, newer fans that got into it in the Drive to Survive era might not realize this, but in 2009, after the 2008 Brazilian Grand Prix, there was a medal system that was set to be introduced. Bernie didn't like the fact that Massa won the final race, but he was world champion for only 30 seconds because Lewis crossed the finish line and then took it from him after he passed Timo Glock and everything. So he had this idea of a medal system and the fact that we'd continue to tally points and everything, but whoever had the most wins at the end of the season, regardless of where they were, they'd be the champion. And it was so universally hated that I think it lasted a total of 3 days before it went away and was completely forgotten about. Thank goodness it was never actually implemented because that's a terrible, terrible way to determine a champion. And, you want to bring NASCAR into it. 2003 would be the perfect example there. Matt Kenseth had a much better season than Ryan Newman, but he only won one race. Ryan Newman was off winning 8 races, but he was winning one week and wrecking the next. That's why Kenseth won the championship. So no, Formula One should not even put this on the table. They shouldn't even consider it. I don't think there are concerns within the fan base is going to be concerned about a boring championship fight. We frequently get that where a driver has an advantage going into the final race of the season that is insurmountable, and the fans still come back. They still watch because they still love the sport, and that's ultimately what it's all about. I don't see them going down the NASCAR road here at all. And what makes it special, what makes Abu Dhabi last year special, at least up until the controversy with the safety car and everything, is that happened naturally. After, what was it, 21 races, over 20 races of Formula One racing. And these two guys are down and tied to the half point after the epic battles and the epic season that Lewis and Max put on for us last year. They're tied going into the final race. And that's special because it happened naturally. It happened organically. NASCAR's system rigs it so that it's guaranteed every year. And so it's not as special as Abu Dhabi was last year. It's not as special as the 1992 Hooters 500 was. When you have a system that guarantees it, you know to expect it, and it doesn't make it feel as special as when it happens because it came down 2 or 3 or 4 or 6 guys fighting naturally down to the final race of the season. Formula One, don't even consider this idea. I think it's kind of silly that we're even entertaining it and discussing it here right now, but that's my thoughts on it. I think you probably already knew where I stood.
I agree, yeah. And to throw it back to what we talked about in one of our preseason shows, as well. Last year, I think, was one of the greatest seasons of Formula One we've ever seen because it had just a little bit of everything in it as well. From one week, it was drama. I don't think there was a dual Grand Prix, maybe Monaco, involved as well. Even Monaco had its drama in qualifying. So there was something great every weekend last year. And let's not doubt it, we've had some great racing this season as well. But it has felt a little bit like they've changed the regulations a bit too much in terms of the fact is that, yes, it's closer racing, but it's damaged a bit of the soul at the moment. We had such a great season last year. And of course, every fan and everybody's going to want to say, let's have that again because it's addictive. But as you said, Ben, because it happens once, it becomes so special. I still haven't forgotten that last race. I can remember calling the last couple of laps and how dramatic it all was as well. And whether it was right or wrong decision is still being debated. But I remember past seasons as well last year. I can remember overtakes from last year as well and how good it was. And then everyone glories it as well because of the title fight. But if you think about everything from lower down the field, it wasn't actually a great season. It was quite a boring mid-race pack. Unless Lewis and Max were fighting at the front, nothing really was going on further back. Whereas this year, no one's really fighting up at the front, but we've got action in the mid-pack. Cars can follow each other. We've got racing going on. So it's sort of half a dozen of one, half a dozen of the other situation as well. I do like the idea that this is the start of a new regulation era and that we've got to give it a year. I also try and remember that every weekend is different. I as a commentator, I come into this weekend and say, right, what am I looking at this weekend? What are the stories here and now that we're going to see as well? And I try and take it on that point of view and enjoy the race, not the championship. Because if you think of the championship, it gets a bit depressing, to be fair. 80 points ahead after half the season. I mean, if I was Italian, I'd shoot myself with pasta, to be fair. But still, going on with it as well, the championship is done. But as a stat, I always like to point out, as well as after I worked it out, it's not over just yet. It would take something incredible for Verstappen to lose it, but reliability issues have been creeping in again this weekend. 2007, Kimi Raikkonen came out of nowhere and took the title away from Hamilton and Alonso because McLaren self-destructed as well. They had a shocking second half of the season, and Raikkonen was consistent and got the title. Now, Red Bull and Ferrari could self-destruct here as well, but one of the two must come out on top because Mercedes is so far back. So it's whoever self-destructs worse after the summer break with this floor drama. So there's loads to look forward to still in the second half of the season. Don't write it off just yet. Something could still happen, but Verstappen definitely has one hand on the title. And to wrap up, I've said since 2010 when this point system came in, it's too big. It's too big of a gap and it offers too little points. I think the best point system in motor racing at the moment is that of MotoGP, where they've got 25 points for a win, 20 points for second, 18 for third, 15 for fourth, and so on. It goes all the way down to 15th place with 1 point. I think it's a very good system because it gives everybody the chance to get points, and the slowest 5 at the bottom as well are always those that are struggling. But that makes it interesting. It gives some more cash in the prize fund to that of Williams and Haas, who were struggling in the previous season, and Williams still struggling this year as well. It gives everyone a fighting chance. And what I do like about MotoGP as well, if you retire and you're 15th, you don't get any points in the board. They start capping you as well. So maybe that could be a system as well to stop people running away with points. Say Verstappen and Hamilton crash, or Verstappen and Leclerc crash, as I say. One of them is down in 14th, one of them is in 15th, and they retire. They're still classified as points finishers, but they don't get any points. Something like that needs to come in. Not to artificially create the championship, but try and level the playing field a little bit, try and make it a bit more fair. And I think try and reduce this close down of 80 points in the title for the same amount of retirements, for the same amount of bad luck.